Welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chili. I'm managing director at Passion Digital, and I'm going to be your host this morning. So if you have any questions, you can come to me or Lydia in the corner, who has organized everything. So today we're going to talk about the future of digital ecosystems, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of how this topic came about. So it basically came about because we talk very often with our partners, Profound Digital. So Profound, oh, Renee, welcome, no worries. So the idea of this event came from one of our multiple chats with Profound. So basically, Profound development agency. They do beautiful UX, user experience. They do beautiful websites. And for us at Passion Digital, obviously, it is the dream to work with companies that have beautiful websites that perform and are built with the future in mind, because obviously that makes our life as marketeers, as performance marketing agency, much easier, right? So it removes blocker, it improves performance. It's the dream, right? And in the same way, for Profound clients, what good is a really good website with great conversion rates if you don't have enough customers coming to it? So basically, we work closely with a few clients. It works really well, and we talk very often, right? So in one of these chats that we were having, Alex and Tim were just geeking out about the MarTech landscape and how it had exploded in the last 10 years, how tech had evolved, and how the customer expectations of tech had evolved as well. And we came to the conclusion that in some weird way, it had become much easier, more tools, and also more difficult, more tools, for these brands that want to step up in their use of data and automation, etc. And we were also thinking about, how different all of our clients were in their use of marketing, in their use of data, their use of automation. And that is because they sit in very different places in the digital maturity scale, right? So that's why we thought that this was a really good topic, and we thought that we had something to say about it, right? So we decided to do this event, and we're going to talk about those different stages in the digital maturity funnel and what we can do about it. So before I introduce the speakers, I'm going to tell you very quickly what the day is going to look like. So we have 3 speakers. We're going to have Tim and Alex first, 20 minutes each. Then we're going to have a very quick 5-minute comfort break, because that was feedback from the last event. Right? And then we're going to have the Q&A just after that. I think 10:45, 11, we should be done, and then breakfast or brunch at this time will be served, and then we can talk and mingle all we like. What I would say, just please help yourself to the yogurt and the fruit in the tables. It will help you get to breakfast without losing your energy, right? That was feedback from the last event as well. And then we can start. So let me introduce you the speakers. So we've got Tim from Profound Digital, Tim Macmillan. So he's the CEO and founder of Profound. He's been building websites and doing design since 2015. I hope this doesn't disturb anything, does it? Anyway, what Tim loves doing and has been doing for 20 years is helping businesses use insights to build great customer experiences, make smarter technology choices, and prepare their teams for digital transformation, right? And today he's going to be talking about the different stages in the digital maturity journey, and he's going to give brands some tips and advice on how to go through stage to stage and some pitfalls to avoid on that. Then we've got Alex Hoffman. He's managing partner at Passion Digital, and he looks after everything innovation, tech, automation, basically anything that will make us smarter, faster, and more efficient at Passion, right? So he's an SEO at heart, as am I. And today he's going to be talking, again, in the what I've said before about how it's easier and more difficult at the same time to navigate this MarTech landscape. And he's going to be talking about how the brands can use marketing and data throughout the digital maturity journey. And then we've got Miles Clark from Cloud Gateways. So he's head of marketing at Cloud Gateways. Cloud Gateways is a SaaS platform, you got to love that name, that does network and connectivity services for private and public sectors. So Miles joined Cloud Gateways at the inception of the company, basically, and he looks after all marketing, brand, and communications and aligning it to the very aggressive growth plans for the company, which is not an easy task, but he does a pretty good job. So he'll be answering some questions from Tim and Alex on how Cloud Gateways have gone through that digital maturity journey and how's been going for him. So I think that's probably it. We can start. Are you ready?
No, carry on, Chile. Thank you, Chile, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I hope everyone is well and looking forward to a good breakfast. There's not going to be much longer to wait, just a couple of talks to get through, and we'll try and keep this interesting. I'm sure there's going to be something for everyone in what I'm going to talk about today. So as Chile said, I'm Tim, I'm the CEO and founder at Profound, and day to day within Profound, I help clients, I run the design practice and the consultancy practice. We help clients kind of answer questions, build strategies, and to think about experiences from a customer's point of view, using our experience to augment the knowledge they already have about their accounts. And I noticed today that quite a lot of the people in the room here is actually from a B2B background. There's a couple of B2C, but we've noticed some quite significant kind of changes in B2B over the last few years. And I thought it'd be quite an interesting topic for me to cover today about digital maturity, particularly within B2B. There are some bits in here that absolutely transfer over to B2C, but I thought I'd share with you some of the insights and some of the experiences that we've had over the last few years of helping B2B organizations kind of digitally mature and start thinking about digital more than just a website. How do you go beyond the website? How do you go on that journey to actually thinking about the services that you provide, the experience you provide, and the way that you use technology within your organizations to become more efficient? So what I thought I'd do, though, is start by framing the types of organizations that we bump into on that maturity scale. And we kind of categorize organizations in three broad camps. We have your traditionalists. I hope people recognize the characters on the screen. We have your traditionalists, people that we call the triers, and then people that we call the transformers. And just to kind of put that into context of how we categorize that and what the traits are, and maybe you guys in the room might relate to some of this description. So a traditionalist kind of organization from a digital maturity point of view is usually one that we find that is still very sales and account management led in terms of those experiences with customers through that discovery and that sales cycle. They've normally got one standalone digital channel, and there's normally a small in-house team that's running that channel and responsible for everything. And they're probably managing multiple customer views. So they might have a view of the customer from a sales perspective, a different view in accounting, and a different view in customer support. So it's often hard to get the insights and understand what's going on from a customer perspective at any stage of their journey. And a real giveaway as to whether or not you're in the traditional stage or not is whether or not you're managing product data, customer data, order data in spreadsheets still. Does that sound familiar to anyone in here? Can I have a show of hands? Anyone in that camp? Okay, just the one. Right, cool. And then moving on to the triers, and triers, we see those as people that have recognised actually they've got to have a customer-focused view of the experience, not that kind of internal view of the experience that customers have, and they're trying to make the experiences better. So they might have started experimenting with some other digital channels more than a website, perhaps a bit of self-service portal or maybe an app or a microsite or something like that. They're trying to get all of their customer data in one place so they can share that single customer view across the organisation. They might have started integrating a couple of key systems together. So maybe the website talks to the CRM, maybe a finance system talks to your ERP system, things like that. But what we tend to find is those integrations are being thought about not very strategically. Perhaps they're quite brittle. They break very easily because maybe those systems aren't actually naturally designed to connect to each other, and it becomes a little bit hard to maintain and stay on top of them. But we still see in this stage, there is still lots of data replication that's going on. We're still managing and handballing spreadsheets and large sums of data across the business in a more manual way. And then the final stage, as we see it, is organizations that have actually gone through at least one cycle of digital transformation. And by that I mean they are putting systems and experiences together for customers that don't require as much kind of face-to-face or person-to-person interaction. They're using digital solutions to become more efficient within the organization, to become more profitable. And perhaps they've started investing in tools like configurators and things like that, so customers can come and get quite complicated quotes and prices for products that they would normally have to go through a more consultative sale process to get to. Yeah, and what this normally turns into when you start breaking it down into 3 stages is you start off on that maturity journey having a very traditional sales and marketing approach to digital, and you just think about it as a website. Then you start thinking about it and actually how can I make things better either for the business or for the customer, and you start doing initiatives around there. And then actually you realize when you get to the final stage that digital is actually driving great efficiency throughout the business. You're making more profit on your sales and reducing operating costs. So how does that sound to people? Is that recognizable to the state that you guys are in? Have I missed anything that you think might be key to your digital maturity journey? I think springs to mind.
It's not a quiet room.
Yeah, that's all right.
You have to work harder.
When did the tequilas come? We ordered those, right? Okay, so what's been the basis of change in B2B from a digital maturity point of view? We've seen over the last few years a lot more focus in more traditional organisations on maturing their digital capabilities. And one of the major factors of that, there's no surprise to all of you, I'm sure, is what happened during the pandemic. I'm sure in our day-to-day jobs, everyone remembers how life changed for us, right? We stopped having face-to-face meetings, everything went remote. Organisations, shops, retail outlets, things like that, they had to close their doors. And because of that, people lurched towards digital to create experiences for customers to compensate for that lack of engagement and experience that was going on in the way that it used to happen. So that kind of enforced change of behaviour through COVID, it was responsible for quite a lot of digital change. And just to bring that to life for you, 60% of leading B2B companies had 0 e-commerce or limited e-commerce capabilities before the pandemic. Roll the clock forward just kind of 1 or 2 years, and by February 2022, 65% of companies had invested in some kind of e-commerce experience in B2B for their customers. And that's the kind of scale of change that we saw in B2C in the early noughties, where everyone was starting running after B2C experiences for customers to actually sell more and have more exposure to customers. So yeah, apart from COVID being a really big accelerator, there's been a few other factors as well. First one I'd talk about would be leadership. 83% of B2B leaders today believe that omnichannel selling is going to lead to a more successful way to prospect and grow new business. And 94% of B2B leaders agree that omnichannel is here to stay. So all of this research is done by the likes of McKinsey and Accenture and Deloitte. These are just kind of things that I'm bringing to life to help you realise that this stuff isn't just me saying this. These things have changed and there's evidence out there about it. But the thing about leadership in B2B organisations is that sometimes they've been around in the organisation for a long time. They don't really realise or understand how to progress, how to move forward with a digital plan or a digital strategy. They need some help with that, or they need to know how to enable it. Then another factor that's been driving change is increased competition. We've all seen an increase in doing business over the last few years. Everything's become more expensive across the board. It doesn't really matter whether you're in B2C or B2B. Wage inflation, price of raw products, raw material, shipping, all that kind of stuff. And that's led organisations to look for other ways to kind of protect margins and look for more operational efficiencies. And throwing more people at a process isn't the way to become more efficient. Actually looking holistically at the process, trying to reinvent it, and thinking about the right digital technology that you need to be able to enable your team to do more high value work whilst also using the technology to drive more profitability is really key. And as I said, yeah, and that really helps you with the pricing. So when you are competing on price and you're in a price sensitive market, you have more margin to play with, so you can compete on price a lot more comfortably without knowing that you're doing something below cost. And then, like any industry or any sector, B2B or B2C, there's been disruption. Through every crisis, there's always opportunists that come along and try to disrupt, industries or sectors. And I think what's different potentially in this phase is that a lot of the disruption that you see in B2B sectors, most people are coming in with digital kind of in the front of the mind on day one. So they're able to accelerate their digital transformation from the beginning because there's no legacy, there's nothing encumbering them and holding them back. Whereas larger organizations that have been on the scene for a longer period of time have got quite often a lot of systems, processes and bureaucracy that they can't really change overnight. So it's easy to disrupt those organizations. And then I think the final thing that's driving change in everywhere really, not just in B2B, is technology. And the rate of change of technology and the philosophies that drive the way that technology is kind of built has shifted. The paradigm has shifted over the last 10 years. And there are a number of factors that contribute towards that. So the first one being adoption of cloud. Getting your key business systems out of your office, out of your core infrastructure and into data centers is really key, not only just to make it easier to maintain, easier to manage and more reliable and stable, but also because it helps make it more secure. And we can't underestimate how important security is in this day and age around technology and data and that kind of things. Back in, I think it was about 2017, we were working with Saint-Gobain, who have brands like Jewson and Graham's, Plumbers Merchants, and we're helping them build out a new B2B e-commerce experience for their B2B customers, their tradesmen and alike. And I don't know if you remember, they got hit quite hard by a ransomware attack called NotPayer, and it just got into their system through an email that come in, unsolicited email that came into someone in their business. And before they knew it, it got its claws into every corner of the business, every system, every mainframe, every computer. And it cost them billions. They had to close their business down. Our project got mothballed. Everyone that we were working with got sent out on site into branches, into local stores to help rebuild their IT because it just crippled them. They weren't going to pay the ransom, they were going to rebuild, but it cost them a lot of lost opportunity, a lot of sales, and most importantly, it damaged their reputation with their key accounts. They interfered with other people's businesses. Their builders couldn't actually physically go and buy anything, even if they paid cash, because they couldn't process those orders through the till and things like that. So having a real focus on security is what's driving a lot of change from a technology point of view, but also data. Operationalizing data across a business so that it's available more readily to people to get insights, to make decisions faster, and potentially even to expose to things like AI. Which we won't be talking about today, but it's a key thing to unlock that potential in the future. And along with all of that, the DNA of platforms, as I mentioned, has changed. That comfort or that trend that we used to see from like the 90s right through to like 2010s to 2020s of companies looking for that panacea piece of software, that large monolithic slab of technology that did everything, that tried to be the finance system, the order management system, the product information management system. You often find that those systems were great in one area but weak in other areas. So you spend a lot of time kind of bending those systems to the needs of the business. And that kind of weighs heavy on the minds of leadership teams in B2B organizations because lots of those kind of technology programs either took a long time to realize value or maybe didn't even complete. We've seen situations where projects have been being delivered over 10 years and by the time they launch, they're already out of date and the business has to start again thinking about that technology and what it needs to deliver in the current day. So you can now think about technology slightly differently. You don't have to go and look for those one all singing, all dancing, jack of all trade pieces of kit. You can look for specialist pieces of technology that can solve specific niche problems within the business and then join them together. And that's what we mean by like the philosophy of technology driving change within B2B. And I'm not going to talk about AI today. We don't have the time. But I'd be interested in chat to anyone later that's actually started experimenting with AI within a B2B kind of context. And finally, for me, the main thing that's been driving change within that B2B landscape is customers. And I think it's the most important factor and probably the bit that we're going to spend the most time talking about today. Make no mistake about it, B2B buyer behavior has changed because of all of those reasons over the last few years, but also because kind of like for many, many years actually, the typical kind of B2B buyer would have been in that industry all their life. They would have entered it when systems were very analog and processes were analog, and they'd be relying very heavily on relationships to procure and to buy and to maintain things that they buy from organizations. And because of that, those people feel very comfortable. They're not digitally native, and they've resisted change for many years. But there's a new kid on the block now, and within most organizations, particularly in B2B, there's a new generation of buyer and decision maker there. Gen Z's entered the workplace. We all know how digitally native these guys are and how they use digital. But also think about the millennial generation. Lots of people from the millennial generation are actually holding positions of responsibility now and decision-making positions within organizations. And they behave very differently, and they have very different attitudes to digital, and they're much more accepting and welcoming of it. And it's those expectations of people that are driving a lot of change within B2B in particular. And we're now in a situation where we've got to balance the needs of the more traditional kind of B2B buyer with actually the emerging needs of the next generation of people that are going to be in the industry for much longer. And what we see going on here is that change in expectation is quite often driven by experiences that these buyers are having in other digital channels. So organizations sometimes forget that people that buy in a B2B space also spend their time on the sofa at home, buying on Amazon, looking at Netflix, things like that. They use digital as a lifestyle choice in many ways, and they build their expectations as what a good experience looks like, what sort of service should I be expecting based upon the service that they get in the B2C space. And just to bring that to life for you a little bit, there's some more research here. These things have come from McKinsey and Accenture and Gartner. McKinsey did a survey in the B2B buyer behavior space, and it said 66% of B2B buyers now prefer remote human interactions or digital self-service rather than one-to-one sales talks. And that's a real shift in culture and attitudes towards buying in B2B from where it used to be. 73% of B2B buyers want a personalized B2C-like experience. That was a report done by Accenture. And then 74% of millennial B2B buyers have actually switched vendors to get an improved consumer-like experience. So you start to see this, bringing this to life, what we're talking about here, is that changing attitudes of customers that are really having an impact on the sector. And then just to wrap off, 72% of B2B buyers are eager to purchase across multiple channels, so not just over the phone with their account manager, but online, on an app, when they're out on the site, on their way to visiting clients, things like that. 83% of buyers now prefer ordering and paying through digital commerce, and there's been a 250% increase in B2B mobile ordering. Now, I still remember my first role in industry was working on DIY.com back in 2000, and we launched one of the first e-commerce retail businesses in the UK. And I do remember sitting down in about 2004 with a buyer within B&Q, and he telling me, no one's ever going to buy a shed online. No one's ever going to buy paint online. Why are we bothering putting these ranges on the website? And it was the same things in some conversations I've been having in 10 years ago, 5 years ago in B2B. People telling me mobile is never going to be a feature of our customers. People aren't going to use it. They want to use their systems at their desk. They don't work in that way. Well, that's just not the case. There are many, many use cases, getting mobile experiences onto the factory floor, into the workshops, onto the building site, whatever it may be. It really helps to make operations more efficient, and people are expecting it. And if you can't offer those kind of experiences, it really kind of holds you back, and it's a reason for people not to select you to work with. So, excuse me. So how do we begin? How do we go from getting on that journey, from starting in that more traditional space to getting into that place of being more transformative, actually going through the process of understanding what customers want and building out the experiences for them, and then improving the operational performance of an organization? And it's a big question, and most traditional organizations don't really know where to start. And what often happens is that they see it as a technology problem, and they start running towards a technology solution. They start meeting vendors, they start procuring technology in isolation of other factors that are actually really important for digital transformation. And the way that we see the world is that technology is just one component of it. Actually, there are much more important components of digital transformation. There's your customers, There's your business and your operations and the people within your business, and then there's data. And if you run after technology and try and select technology, in ignorance to all of those other factors, you often end up finding yourself kind of stuck or just spinning in one of those earlier stages of digital maturity. So, what needs to change? How do you need to think about it? Well, what you need to do is actually think about bookmarking your experiences, bookending your experiences with customers and the business, right? And using technology and data to bridge the way that customers interface with your business and with your team, with your products, etc. And if you get really successful at this and become really mature, that technology and data layer should become really invisible to people. They shouldn't really feel like they're interacting with multiple systems, multiple touch points. It should become really smooth and really easy to know and easy to buy something on this system, to raise a query on that system. Customers shouldn't feel like they're on two different systems. They should feel like they're on one experience. And from a business point of view, it's about enabling the organisation to work smarter, really. How can we use digital to be more efficient? And so where does it begin? How do we frame this from going from perhaps that traditional to the trial stage? Well, maybe this is familiar to some people as well. The situation we often bump into is that a B2B organisation has normally started out with a website, and it's normally a brand website, and it's kind of marketing led, and it's got a database that's feeding it content and information, maybe product data, things like that. And then there's a team of business users behind that managing it. And what they're doing is kind of handballing data from other systems and putting it into the website. And when it's only one channel, it's kind of easy to manage, and it doesn't really cause that many problems. It could be more efficient, but it's manageable. But what happens when you realise that your customers want a portal, or your delivery drivers want a mobile app, or perhaps you need a microsite for a sub-brand you want to test or something like that? The step that organisations tend to do at that stage is they'll go, well, should we just copy what we've got, or should we just build the same thing out again? So we end up with a couple of channels that we're now managing. It still feels manageable with the same number of people, perhaps in the marketing team or in an IT team. And the problem we've got now, though, is we're starting to duplicate data, and we're starting to have a dependency on having to keep data up to date in a couple of places. So the minute you start needing to add more and more channels, more and more digital solutions, more and more places where customers can have a digital touch point with you, it just becomes really painful. Because what often happens is where you've got the business in the middle of that relationship between data and the channel and the customers at the other end there, is that digital teams don't often, or the teams that are managing that don't often scale at the same rate and pace as the systems that are being put in place. So we just end up crippling the team a little bit with really low value administrative work, trying to keep prices, product information, data, imagery, whatever it might be, consistent and up to date in different touch points. But also we've also got 4 or 5, maybe 6 different kind of front end experiences for customers to manage. And if you're using different platforms in all those experiences, how do you know that the customer is going to have a consistent experience across all of those channels? So I guess the real pain point of getting to this state, though, is actually before you know it, you've got there, and it becomes really difficult to kind of re-engineer that situation, because there's a lot of process and investment that's gone into it. These systems might be integrating point to point with each other rather than through a more kind of consolidated way. And organisations just bury their head in the sand and they say, well, we've done too much now. We built this Frankenstein. We can't decompose it. We can't do anything different. So that's why it's really important, before you get too far along on your journey and you're still in the situation where you've got 1 or 2 channels, actually thinking strategically about what that future end state is going to look like, and how do we make the right decisions from a people, technology, organisation, process point of view, so we don't end up in a situation which is really, really kind of painful, but actually looks more like this, where we just flip the model around a little bit, actually, and we bring the data closer to the customer. So we operationalise our data so that it's mastered in one place. If we've got to update the prices in 3 or 4 channels, we update it once and it's pushed out to the website, the mobile app, whatever it may be. If we've got product availability that needs to be updated in several places, the same principles apply. So your business team are now kind of mastering and updating one piece of data, and then the technology is taking care of making sure that all of your customer touch points, all of the business touch points are getting the right information at the right time. And what's really important about this as well is that you also think about the channel experience at the front end for the customer. Think about things like design systems, standardized approaches to having experiences. Does everyone use like the BBC and the iPlayer and things like that? They have like a design system that powers that experience. So it doesn't matter whether you're on the mobile, on the desktop, on an app or something like that. Everyone feels like they're on the BBC. They know what to expect. They know what the system is going to do, whatever situation they're in. And it's kind of like thinking like that here. You don't want to be managing 5 or 6 disparate kind of code bases for the front end. You can actually think a bit more strategically about that and have one common design system or framework that's powering all of those experiences there. And that's how you actually start getting to the point where customers have good experiences, the business improves the processes, and operations start operating a bit more smoothly. So how does that happen? How do we get there? What's the process that you go through as an organization to get there? Well, if you were working with us, we would follow what we call an experience design framework. And that for us, experience design for us, it means managing the tension that can exist between what customers want, what the business needs from a strategic point of view, and the technology landscape that exists, and helping organizations to plan a journey of digital transformation that is sensitive to the needs of all of those kind of 3 parties, but also brings value quite quickly. And it also has to take into account the budget, the availability of people within an organization, and the maturity that already exists there in order to have good outcomes. And the first place you need to start is facing into the fact that your customers might have changed. You may not realize it yet because you haven't been disrupted or something like that, but actually if you haven't been staying close to your customers or you don't have up-to-date research, it's about understanding what customers want today. They may just be sticking with the status quo because it suits them, but if someone comes along and turns their head, are you going to be sure that they're going to be happy to stay with you? Remember all those stats we said about millennial B2B buyers wanting to swap for a better experience, or people wanting to have more remote digital engagements. All of those things need to come into mind. And once you understand whether your customer base, what your customer requirements are, you start working with them to understand what is the experience that they actually want to have with you across their entire life cycle of being a customer. How are they going to engage with you at the very beginning when they're becoming aware of you as a brand? What touch points, what digital services do you need to actually service them? And how are you going to deepen that relationship with them in the future? How are you going to build more advocacy? So once you start understanding who your customers are, what motivates them, and how you can influence their behaviors and engender loyalty with them, you then need to work with them to understand what's the ideal experience you want to give them. And when you know that, you can then go to the business and say, guys, this is what our customers want. This is what we do today. How are we going to get there? What are we going to change? What processes do we need to change? What people do we need? And how long is it going to take to get there? And I guess from a business point of view, the first place that we would suggest that you start is to really think about making digital a strategy, not just an enabler for the website, not just something that the marketing team do and look after. Actually start thinking about digital as something more wholesome and more key to the success of your business in the longer term. And then when you get on that journey, it's not a journey that you should take in isolation or limit to just 1 or 2 people within the team. You've actually got to think about winning the hearts and minds of people, particularly the more traditional people within organizations. If you can win over the accounts team, the account management team, the sales team, show them that actually digital isn't a threat to their job. It's not going to displace them. It's actually going to enhance them. It's going to bring them more leads, more opportunities. It's going to help them work smarter, do more nurture. That's half the battle won, because the last thing you want to do is to build some kind of digital transformation program, start implementing it, and then it not get adopted by the people within the business because of that fear that can sometimes exist. Thirdly, I think you need to be prepared to face into the fact that if you're going to do this seriously and there is a longer term roadmap, you've got to grow your own digital capability. You'll get so far working with agencies and technical partners in the early days, but actually you're going to become a digital product business as well as a core product business. And you've got to think about building out the experience, the expertise, and the people within your business to become product owners of the digital channel that you're building out there, particularly when you get into the later stages of that maturity model. And then I guess you've got to be prepared to manage the change well. You've got to bring the business with you, but also don't shock them. And just sending out an email the day before you launch a new website or an app or a channel or a system or something like that isn't a great way to announce something to the business. You need to prepare them, train them, get them involved in it, get their feedback, use that to improve the things that you're doing there. And if you get all of those things right and take the business on the journey, you'll understand how you can close the gap between what the end state is for the customer and where you are today from an operational perspective. The next thing you need to look at is data. If you're lucky enough to have a conversation with Nick later, he'll talk your ear off about data. It's a real passion of his, but it's a real problem for clients that are digitally immature trying to get into that digital maturity journey, because it's just natural for organisations to have data silos. It's just the way that things have happened, and you need to start thinking as early as possible about how do we sort that out? How do we get rid of all of these data silos, all of these data copies that are going on there? First thing you need to do is escape spreadsheets. Look for systems that fit the nature of the data that you're managing. So if it's product information, look for a PIM. If it's pricing or availability, there are systems out there that you can hold that data in. And think about fixing data quality issues while you're at it. There's no point putting in rubbish data into a brand new system. Go through that exercise and that painful exercise of actually enduring the process of saying, okay, this data quality isn't good enough. And by that, there might be gaps. That might be a data quality issue. You might not have all the information for every single product, but you might more often than not, particularly when it comes to marketing descriptions about products and stuff like that, you'll find a mixed bag. Some systems will have good quality product descriptions. Some systems will have poor quality. When you bring all that together on a website or an app or some kind of system for a customer, and they start choosing and referencing different types of products for their solution, if you've got different fidelities of information, it's really jarring for them. So thinking about the customer from a content and data point of view at this stage is really important as well. And finally, a good reason to think about this early is that that the AI bus is coming, and eventually it's going to arrive, and you're going to need to be able to give whatever kind of AI initiatives that you take on or generative AI stuff that you do, some good quality data in order to kind of capitalize on it. So this is, regardless of any kind of program or plan or anything like that, this is work that is well invested in, regardless of what you're going to be doing in the future. And once you kind of get your head around all of that, you normally end up in a situation where actually you can define what your transformation journey looks like strategically. And what you see here, this is kind of like an indicative model that an organisation might go on from that traditional approach right up to using digital to drive efficiencies and more profitability within an organisation. But you see it starts at the bottom end there where, as we spoke about, you might have a brochure website or a brand website, multiple product data stores, a business-focused view of the customer. You get into the middle stage is there, and you're migrating into the cloud, your key systems. You're thinking about your customers from an outside-in perspective rather than an inside-out perspective. And you've started to put in place key systems of record that are fit for purpose, so product information systems, customer data platforms or CRM systems. You start putting your data in the right place, and then that unlocks that final stage there where actually you can start really doing some good stuff with B2B e-commerce or customer configurators, self-service portals, things like that. So that's kind of like how you can start tackling this and the things to think about. So I guess to wrap up, I'm just going to kind of reset why it's important for us to start thinking about this now at this point in time. What's the reason behind all of this? And just to fall back on some of those research pieces, just to help bring this to life again for you guys. 66% of B2B buyers remain dissatisfied with their online purchasing experience. I look at that, and if I was a B2B organisation, I'd be looking at it saying, well, that's a massive share of market in my space that I can go after if I just get that experience right up front. If I can get there before my competitors do, that's a real great way to find new customers. And we've seen from other research that we showed earlier that people will switch if you offer them a good online experience. 86% of B2B decision makers prefer using self-service tools for reordering. And it kind of makes sense, right? You might need that consultative sale the first time you order that widget or that machine or whatever it is. But if you think about like buying a printer, do you need to speak to a sales rep every time you need to order some toner? You just want to go on and order it, right? You know you don't need that kind of consultative sale for that post-sale stuff, for everything that you just want to reorder on an order list. And then finally, 90% of B2B buyers will turn to a competitor if your digital channel can't keep up with their needs. So these are all really important things to bear in mind when you're actually thinking about what your digital transformation journey looks on, and remembering that it's actually about the customer, and they're actually looking looking for these experiences with you. Okay, final slide from me. A few tips, things that we suggest that you be aware of, or pitfalls to avoid, if you like, as you go through this process. It's really just to repeat what we said earlier. Don't select technology in isolation, and by that I mean like in isolation of the entire need for technology in your business, but also by just a few people within the organisation doing that. If it's a piece of technology that you think you're going to need, you should bring in the subject matter expertise from different corners of the business to help you make those decisions. It's probably going to have a finance impact, a sales impact, a operations impact, a customer service impact. Get people involved in that and build those requirements with people within the business before you actually go out there and start looking at vendors. This kind of builds on that point. Don't not involve the whole business in the process. And don't make the mistake that if you're going to go on this journey that it's a one and done deal, that it's a one-off investment. It's not like building a factory and filling up machines that only need to be replaced every 10 years because they become obsolete or whatever. Things change in digital very, very quickly. We've seen that already. We spoke about that today. You're going to need to keep your ears open and your eyes open to what customers are asking for, what your competitors are doing, what your business needs to become more efficient and more profitable. And that's going to require an attitude of continuous investment, and that's something you need to help kind of like stakeholders in your business understand. And then finally, please don't assume that your customers' needs have not changed. If you haven't spoken to them in a while, go and have a conversation. They may just be staying loyal to you because nothing has turned ahead yet, but at the moment it does. You've got to make sure that you're protecting your base there so that you're building on a strong base and that you're keeping your customers that you have happy already. Okay. So hopefully you can tell we're quite passionate about our passion. Do you see that? We're profound, but we're quite we're quite passionate about the experiences in B2B. We've mentioned quite a lot of research today that we've used, and we're helping our clients to understand what to do. We're doing our own piece of research at the moment. We're putting a white paper together about the state of digital and B2B. If there's anyone in the room that's got some experiences that you'd love to share with us and you'd like to feature in our piece of research, please come and talk to me or anyone from Profound here today. We'd love to get you involved in that. And that's it, guys. You are one talk closer to breakfast. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. I mean, very relatable to B2C. Not the stats, but all the journey that you've said, and definitely the pitfalls and things not to do. So thank you, and we've got Alex next.
Good morning. All right. So thanks for joining. There's one thing before I get into it. The last pitfall that Tim mentioned about not selecting your tech without consulting the rest is something we see every day. So many times we have prospects coming in and say, by the way, we went to our tech company, they built us a website, make money out of it. It's like, great. But the technology wasn't made for marketing, or it's a brand website, so they didn't consult a performance marketing agency before doing the website. So just want to say that if you ever think about changing your website, always think first how I'm going to make money out of it, because that's the purpose of it. So let's start. So today, I just want to talk a bit about the landscape, what's happening, but I also want to go back a step because in the last few years, it feels like in marketing, if you read the news, that marketing is going to die, SEO is going to die, everything's changing, it's the end of the world, there's AI coming, it's always doomsday every day in marketing. But the reality, it's not really. Things have remained the same a lot in marketing. I mean, there's some books I read in university that we still use today. It's the same principles, but there's a lot more tech happening, and we'll go through it. So first, search the website. So Tim said go beyond the website. We're going to stay closer to the website. That's what we do. But the website purpose hasn't really changed. Started in digital marketing more than 10 years ago, and we still do that. You need your website to educate your customers, inform them, engage with them, and convert. If you look at your websites, if you come back from the talk and you look at your website today and you go through your blog, your insights, your product pages, you can make a tick box and see, actually, am I missing something? Am I too salesy? Am I trying to convert all the time? Then that's great, because that's the purpose of the website as well. But if you don't educate, inform before, it might not work. The reason is people will search in the different websites, in different platforms before going and converting into one. Therefore, the users feel more comfortable converting on a website if they know what you're talking about, if you're experts in the field. So how the exercise, go onto a website and have a look and say, do I educate my customers, do I inform them and engage with them and convert? So that hasn't changed. It's been out for 10 years, going to be for the next 20, 30 years. But something that changed dramatically in the last couple of years, 3 years, Susanna knows all about it as well, is Google. Google has released, and I'm an SEO at heart, so I'm going to dwell a bit on it. It's very important for SEO, but not only for SEO, for the overall experience of the website. Google has changed its algorithm a couple of years ago. It's been going on for a long time. They've been prepping for it. But when I started SEO, you could just put a few keywords in, build a few links, top of the rankings, easy done. Like, it's great. SEO is very easy. But today, they released a framework called EEAT. So what does it mean? Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Working with many clients at the moment, it's something that clients are not used to do. So when you publish a piece of content, let's say a white paper or a guide or something like this, for example, and you expect readers to trust it, to trust the content. But if you don't really have an author, or who's the author? Is it the marketing manager, just as marketing manager? Great, who's that person? Like, are you selling, like, for example, financial services? It might impact your money. It's a very important decision. Who's that marketing manager? Can I trust it? Has that person experienced, used the product? Because how can you say it's great if you haven't tested it? Otherwise, I could start writing about financial services and the products and just push it online. It used to rank in the past, but it doesn't anymore. So experience and expertise are two elements that Google now has within the algorithm. So I'm not going to go into the detail on how it works, but Google can find names on your website, then put into his database, see, oh, that person has a LinkedIn profile, how has that person has been published, and make a map of that person and say, great, that person is an expert in this field, therefore the content warrants a good ranking. It's quite hard. That's something we're working with B2B businesses is a shift, because we expect now as performance marketeers to have your name, your faces, your CV on the website before we could hide behind marketing manager. So it's a shift in the way we operate, but as a user, I would expect to trust that content. And Google does the same. Authority and trustworthiness, so the reputation, so again, is the website reputable? And that comes in many forms. Do you do PR? If you do PR, where are you published? Because Google knows that. It knows in which newspapers you've been published. Are they good? Do they get links? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the way we do websites has changed in a way, but it hasn't, because it was always the aim to do that. But now we have clear rules. And trust, how accurate and honest, safe and reliable is the page. That's an exercise we do with clients when we do audits with it, is can you actually trust the content, or has it been there for like 5, 6, 7 years? Is it actually working anymore, especially in the legal space or financial services? Is some outdated stuff on it? So Google has changed a lot. Now, who knows this? So we said we don't talk about AI, but I kind of have to talk about AI a bit. Have you seen that things on Google before? Yeah. So again, generative AI, we've been talking about it for 2 years now. It launched 3-4 weeks ago in the US. It's a massive fiasco. It doesn't really work, but it's there. I mean, it's there. It's going to stay. It's not going to kill SEO. It's not going to kill SEO. We're still going to need it. The website is still going to be there. And the funny thing is, what's generated here mostly is a Renault article that is, most of the content generated is not from the top 10 results in Google, which is, are you using content from websites that don't warrant to rank in position 1? That means, is it trustworthy? So I want to really trust it. But that changes. In the UK will come, and clients come to us as like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, oh, it's going to kill the traffic. It's like chill. Like, it will happen to everyone first. So if it impacts everyone, it's not going to be just you. So if everybody decreases at the same rate, you still have the same share. But I wouldn't worry too much. If you focus what we said before here as a framework, this won't be a problem because your content will be featured. You just have to be more creative about the way you do stuff. Search. Principles have remained the same. Using keywords from Monash, you recognize those. Principles of search have remained the same. We put search into 4 categories: informational, explorational, navigational, and transactional. So pretty self-explanatory. But you start your journey from finding information, then finding who does it the best, looking for a brand, because now you know, you look at your top 10, your website that just reviews, the review websites, and you go to the website, and then you look for the transaction. But the transaction might not be the first website you looked at. So again, it's very important to capture your users from the get-go. So SEO website is across the 4 stages. Therefore, that's why it's important to take care of it. Then you have your paid search, PPC, pay-per-click, which usually happens at the later stage of the funnel. It's really like the users that come to the website, they find some information, let's give it some ads, and for them to buy. And social search. So social search has always been there. I mean, we have social media for a long time now. And usually people use it on the informational, explorational stage, and funnily enough, as well, more in the B2B side, B2C side, but more as a transaction, and it's getting more and more and more important. So that hasn't changed. And it's been 10 years, it's still the same. But what has changed is all of this there. It's not exhaustive. There's many other more. But we talked about ChatGPT, Gemini. I use Gemini to find information. Maybe not for, like for example, I don't know, like tips on how to invest money because I don't really trust it. But if you want to bake, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's a lot faster for the little things, but it's a behavior change. You might not do it for all your B2B very intricate questions today, but people are using it in the B2C space. And as Tim said, that you can take behaviors from the B2C into the B2B side. And that's what's very important. YouTube, TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I mean, I'm B2B financial services. Who's on TikTok? Yes and no. I mean, I've watched some videos on TikTok that are actually very, very informative. Because again, you have this new generation that's coming into there, which is next customers. They're used to that. And they want to see someone talking from like person to person about their problems and how they experience it. They don't necessarily want to read a page written by a marketing manager about the benefits of your business, because real life experience is more important. The word of mouth is still the same, but different platforms. YouTube, whereas to search for videos that you made or ads is very important because you can target your customers when they chilling and watching what they like, and an ad that's related to you. We'll come into this because you need data to do that. But to say, again, it hasn't really changed. It's the platforms that have changed. So as long as the strategy you're using and the way you approach things is researched, there shouldn't be any problem. Now, let's look a bit at assumptions versus reality, 2009, 2024. In 2009, we could say like you had to be able to manipulate and understand large data sets. I mean, when I started working in SEO, all we had is spreadsheets, and that was it. Like that's all you do. That's not true. Performance levers for account managers, there was a lot, because if you were working PPC, pay-per-click, you had to change the bids on every single keyword at any given time. So if you work, like, remember working for like John Lewis at Black Friday, you had a team of 20 people day in, day out, just changing bids. Yeah, that was the job. And we used to say that the devil was in the detail. true, because if you made a mistake, it could be very costly. Now in 2024, we say, yeah, machine learning will deliver the best results. Like AI is here, they're coming, the robots, fine, they'll do the job for us. Which people think that sometimes. They say, why do I need an agency? Like Google does everything. Well, yes and no. The system is set up to deliver business value. That is true. Like the new machine learning will help you deliver business value and drive revenue. And there's more time strategy now because we don't have to do the spreadsheets. Well, yes and no. In reality, you don't manipulate massive spreadsheets anymore to do the action, but you still manipulate a lot of data because these machine learning machines, they need input. You can't just, as you said, put rubbish data in, because if you put rubbish data in, the result is usually rubbish output. Yes, the performance levels have changed, so you can't really change the keywords, the ad copy, all of this nice automated by Google Performance Max. Google is very good at doing this. Every time there's a new AI, the very good AI tool that comes out, Google looks at it, says, yeah, I'll buy you, and I'll integrate it to my suite. That's what they do. But the one thing that they're not going to buy is your website. Your website is key here because you can optimize it. You can work on the brand, on the tone, on the SEO. Like, it's not just people searching for you because you might come from social, email marketing. All of this, sometimes, day-to-day job, I think people have forgotten about it. It's been there forever. And they haven't optimized because they thought, well, we don't work necessarily with the website. But actually, you do because we don't do SEO. But people call, like salespeople, look at my website, and then they go to the website anyway. So there are many channels that will end up on your website. So you still need to work on that. Devil was in the detail, but it still is. I mean, if you make a mistake before today, it still is. 2024 is like, yes, machine learning will help you, but it's not infallible. You need data for it. It doesn't work if you don't have the right data. Again, inputs. If you don't have if you're a solid CRM on a spreadsheet, which happens, how do you tell Google, especially in B2B, like if the sales cycle is 6 months, if you have like 20 sales a year, you need to tell Google that because it will come back on the machine learning and find all the touch points that led to that sale. If you don't have this, you can't optimize towards it. And more time for strategy, yes, it's true, but more and more what we see is people just let Google do. That's what we say, why do I need an agency? Because Google can do everything. But it doesn't really work like that. Google is very good at what it does, but you need to think about all the data that you can use, behavioral data, free data, ONS data to put in the strategies, Google Maps data, who are your customers, what do they do in this area? So there's so much more time to gather data that is not just search, like behavior and audience, and that's where it gets very, very interesting. So before and after, but just what I'm going to say here is the same. Like, it hasn't changed. You used to be very, very hard because you didn't have ML before, but now it's very easy because you have ML. Data, you didn't have data, so it was hard. Now you have too much data, so it's hard as well. you can use it. And the ecosystem, you didn't have much before, but now you have a lot. So basically, like, it's just the same. Like, things haven't really changed in terms of how difficult it is. The shift of where you put your time and effort has. In terms of, that I find quite nice. I follow these guys for a few years now. And this is, they do an infographic every year on a big piece of paper of how many tools exist in the MarTech landscape. Since 2011, of 150 to more than 11,000 tools in 2023. It's going to be 15,000 this year. But people will carry on making new tools, like just creating new stuff because people create those new tools that it allows us to think more creatively and make our life easier. But also, you can be very distracted. I mean, I'm the one distracting the company. I test them all. But it's important because it allows you to think, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Let's try it on. You know, let's try that. And this is how you grow, and this is how you make your business faster, more efficient. Yeah. More profitable. So conclude this first section, focus on what you can control, basically. The website, again, make it marketing ready. If it's not ready, start with that. Forget AI, forget ML, forget social, just do your website because you can control and you have the keys to the castle, you can change everything. So do this first. Second, collect the data you need. That's hard. I mean, with our clients in B2B, where it just stops usually is CRM. It's always that last point where I say, we can't connect the CRM or the data is not there. And it makes our life so much harder because we can find, proxies to assume the sales and everything. But if you could connect your CRM to Google, the potential on analysis of this data becomes crazy. Work on this, as Tim said, baby steps, work on the different programs, but the data is crucial. Don't collect everything, but collect something well. And the last bit, apart from me, which I get distracted, but for you, there's people like us that we pay to get distracted. Don't get distracted. Everybody will say, yes, AI will change, this will change. It just distracts from what's actually happening and just puts everybody in a chaos. And then you have the branding team say, oh, that's going to change. And then the CEO says, oh, I've seen this. And nothing gets done. We had a plan, with a marketing plan, a tech plan. Let's just stick with it. And as it grows, incrementally change. But too many times, noise everywhere from everyone that it just derails what we're trying to achieve. And that's going to get even worse in the future. There's so many more tools. And people like to chat about all of these things. So those are my 3 takeouts. Is just focus on your website. Don't get distracted. Right. Now, if we look at frameworks, maturity, this is what Google gives you. I'm not going to read it. As with everything Google does, they're very good at giving you very vague explanations. They expect you to spend the business life savings into their business and tell you, yeah, it could work. But this is what they give you. So we use some of it because it's quite interesting, more geared toward paid media. But what we did is we made it a bit, had some sprinkle on it to make it more relatable. So entry stage. So let's see here in your head, you don't have to raise your hands, who thinks they're here, basically. But this is your basic entry. So that includes data, attribution, digital marketing. So let's start. So you're not capturing much data, first-party data you don't really have. You don't integrate your systems, like SEO, never heard of it, what does it mean? And you use a default last-click attribution model. So I'm going to just stay on the attribution model for a bit, because in B2B, as the journey is so long and you have so many touch points, how can you really attribute the value of a sale to a channel, to an effort? So if you have a marketing team, for example, the PPC person and the SEO person, they're all going to fight for that because they have targets and they want to say that's from my team that did this. But at the entry stage, you can't really do it because you assume that sales picked up the phone, that's it, it's my SQL. Picked up the phone, closed it, great. Sales is going to take it, marketing say, well, we can't do anything about it. So that's your basic stage. I don't think many of you are from here. That's more like I'm starting a startup and I'm just working on it. So how do you move to the next stage? What does that mean? So now we're talking about silos as well. You have your channels, but it's all completely siloed. So you have a bit of data. You have a bit of first-party data. You have a little CRM, probably in a spreadsheet. You get your data from Google Ads. You dabble a bit. Someone told you, oh, I want to rank for best EIS funds. Like, can you bid on that? And well, I want to be first, for example. But nothing's really connected. You're dabbling on the different platforms. then from an SEO standpoint, you are considering a bit of SEO. So you have someone in your team that said, actually, our content could work harder. We want to be ranking. We understand that ranking in Google is not just like the value of the sale is going to make. There's a perception, if you're number one on Google, you must be doing something right. Because everybody knows, like, oh, the first one, I might trust it a bit better than the second one, and the third, and so forth. So if they've seen you there, it's, oh, down the line, I might trust them a bit better. So at this stage, you have content strategy in place, and your website is being thought of. You don't have too many errors. That's what we said emerging is. In terms of attribution models, that's where, because you have different platforms, you can start having non-last click models. So you can say, for example, if I have a sale and there was a bit of paid, a bit of SEO, and a bit of sales, I'm going to do 30, 30, 30, 33, 30, 30, 33. So it's not great, but you're getting there, you know, like everybody has to start somewhere, and it's a good way to measure and to attribute some sales. Now, if we move to the next step, advanced. That's when we like working with these clients. That's great. Sorry?
There's not that many.
There's not that many, but we're getting there, but that's what we hear. That we like it because here, that means like your data is centralized, as T mentioned. Like the data is there. We can use it, really, really use it. So first-party data. First-party data, you probably have heard a bit about it. The cookieless, cookies are disappearing. It's the end of the world. What are we going to do as advertisers? But it's important. Like the data you collect is gold because it's your data and you can do whatever you want with it. Well, not sell it, but you can use it for your marketing purposes. So that's good. Your CRM is there. You have what we call a feedback loop. We love that. It's when your CRM is directly connected back to the advertising platforms, and we can train the models to do that. Data is centralized. Again, very important. From an SEO standpoint, like SEO is now embedded. Like you have someone championing this in your business. You understand, Mona, for example, championing SEO. They understand the importance of it. We're not completely there yet, but there's an important, and the more you work on it, the more you can see the benefits. You're creating content with the audience in mind. So you know it's not just we need to write blog content and say, oh, this one is for that target market, this one is for that target market, and oh, maybe we could publish it in another publication and get some links, get some trust. So all this is already thought of. So that's when you do all of these things, basically, that's when the attribution models, that's where the attribution models become very, very, very important because now you have so much data, you need to be able to know where someone is going to ask you, where does my money go? Which channel should I invest in? Like, especially if you have not much, you need to know exactly where to put it. So that's when data-driven models are perfect because all the data is connected and you can say, okay, well, that platform is not working. That's not working. This is working. Let's put more money on this. Test, refine, test, refine. So not most of our guys are not there yet, but this is it's good. This is very good for the market. Yeah, what to aim for, this is very good. Now, the last one, mature. I don't think I've seen many in the last 10 years, but now is the going beyond your website. Again, the experience is beyond your website. There's point of sales, like omni-channel view of your customers. How do you track them? Everything online, offline, like you're whizzing through the data. Everything is there, basically. I mean, getting to that point, getting from 1 to 2 to 3 can be done, let's say easily, compared to the last point, because that involves a lot more tech, a lot more changes in the business. It's doable, but it will take a lot more planning to get there. And that's it.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.